Arkaim has an unusual history. Many scientists agree that what is now a mere meadow in the hills was once the site of some urbanized capital city, the heart of an ancient civilization. Arkaim is estimated to be as old as the Egyptian pyramids. Local scientist Dr. Gennady Zdanoevich is credited with the discovery of Arkaim. In 1987, he identified the outline of the ancient town behind the hills.
Watch out!
Today, only its circular outline remains, but it can be seen from a bird's-eye view. Arkaim was laid out in the form of a circle. If you look from above, you can see there are two overlapping rings. People moved to the area, building thick walls, mysterious towns, and solar observatories. Little is left of Arkaim. Its tall walls and towers were destroyed a long time ago, and the town was ruined by fires, floods, winds, and time itself.
Guys, look here. It's a pot. And it's a cross at the bottom.
Archaeologists have since uncovered casting molds, blacksmith tools, and intricate works of bronze and ceramic. Archaeological digs have shown that the ancient town was inhabited by the forebears of the Aryan race.
Those ancient Aryans were credited with everything on Earth. They were even said to have discovered metals.
Yekaterinburg, capital of the Urals region. It's a major industrial and financial center. With all the office buildings, traffic jams, and crowded sidewalks, it seems an unlikely place for something mystical.
Hello.
Hello.
Andrei Yubushkin is a logistics manager for a transport company. But his hobby is about as far from the field of transportation as it can be. Motion is probably the only similarity. Andrei studies unidentified flying objects. His hobby takes him to every corner of the region. Now he and his friend Dmitry are about to set out for the village of Malyovka. This small town is 300 kilometers from Yekaterinburg and nearly 2,000 kilometers from Moscow. It entered the national spotlight back in the late 1980s. It was then that Emil Bachurin, one of the villagers, sent a letter to a Moscow newspaper recounting his contacts with extraterrestrials. Several years later, he died in a fire, but his stories remain on record in a documentary.
All of them look like humans. Some are just like you and me. Others are oversized giants, 4 or 5 meters tall, and they fly through the air.
According to some estimates, it's as old as the Egyptian pyramids. Today, only the contours of the town remain. But Dr. Gennady Zdanoevich, the local scientist who discovered Arkaim, has no difficulty finding his bearings.
The entrance from the north is more or less identifiable. Entrances from the south and from the east were less obvious, but they were secret entrances leading to underground labyrinths. Strangers had no access to this fortress.
Archaeologists have been digging on the site for over 20 years. In summertime, local college undergraduates, including students of Dr. Zdanoevich, work as volunteers under the guidance of professionals.
Guys, look, it's a bone. I think it's a rib.
No, it looks more like a hip bone.
Ivan has been here many times before. He'll soon write a scientific paper about Arkaim.
On the one hand, here I've become aware of the fact that man is part of nature. On the other hand, when I cut into all those cultural layers, I clearly realize that man stands apart because he changes nature to suit his needs.
Tourists from all over the world have arrived at where the ancient town once stood.
Here used to be a street. It has a wooden covering. People might move freely here.
The village of Ryutinka, 200 kilometers from Yekaterinburg, is another paranormal hotspot in the Urals. One of the villagers, Nikolai Churkin, has been studying UFOs for 50 years. The Soviet KGB was suspicious of his work. Nikolai was questioned several times, and some of his evidence was confiscated. But he has been able to preserve most of it.
Here you can see albums, 2 photo albums with pictures of UFO and reports of our expedition.
The Soviet UFO specialist says his interest was roused after his first contact with aliens. That was when Nikolai was only 5 years old. He maintains that he saw a portal to another dimension in the vegetable garden just outside the house where he lived.
I saw a pyramid. It was a white pyramid. And on that day, a human approaching from the other side. And the vegetation here was quite thick. That was where those potatoes are now. And later, I read books by experts on paranormal events, saying it was entry to a different dimension.
After that, aliens became a frequent sight in the village of Ryutinka. At least that's what Nikolai says.
Well, we saw a flying saucer landing in this forest over there. We were driving from a neighboring village. And at first I thought it was a shooting star or a satellite, but then I clearly saw it was a saucer.
Nikolai says that the object was 30 meters in diameter and 2.5 meters high, with antennae sticking out of the top. At first, the locals poked fun at Nikolai, but later nearly all Ryutinka villagers found themselves in a similar situation. Nikolai's neighbor was no exception.
They say you saw something.
Yes.
Could you tell me about it?
Well, it was a round object, and there were different colors on it. It hovered for a while, and then began moving slowly away.